Welcome everybody, Josh RV Nerd of Bish's RV with some very sharp updates on the 29.5 BHTS Jayco Eagle. Previously an Eagle HT, it's actually graduated up to the full Eagle series and picked up some nice benefits along the way. Like, they now have factory standard solar, but what we're looking at today is actually an expanded optional solar package, even including a little inverter, and on Eagles you do have the ability to go a step further. This one's really crafty and creative because it gives a double over double bunkhouse that frankly doesn't have to be just for kids. The beds are big enough, I think some adults could probably make that work too, with some really intelligent dedicated storage back there, but also below the whole bunk area is a big giant what I call junk in the trunk storage system, and it has a very interesting large camp kitchen where it's actually almost more of an outside entertainment center and convenience station than a camp kitchen, but you could certainly use it either way. What's great about this one though is it has a gigantic, like half the width of the RV's sliding pocket privacy door. So during the day, the bunks are open and everything looks big, but whenever you're ready, you can close that off and still have totally privatized sleeping. And I think that's one of the really major differentiating factors on this one. Now, they've done some things like they've got the kind of hidden library storage pantry-tainment system in the kitchen returning for another season this year. They've improved the freestanding table that we're going to get to see. So it has that floating like half booth Franken bench that adds some storage. The table itself can pivot and fold flat against the wall if you want to use it a little bit like a desk. It has an extension leaf. It also still has a pair of additional fold-away guest chairs. So there's like 10 different things you could do with just the table alone. True queen bed, new windshield for this year, and a whole slew of other things. I'm really excited to see what you think about this one. And if you like how we get down here, we get you the footage, show you what's new and what's good about it, and also I'm going to point out some things that maybe are not awesome on this one. Hit that subscribe button, like our video, and we'll get started for you. This one's popularity is interesting because, like, a lot of times when a manufacturer has like one of their best sellers, they quit messing with it. And I think that's actually one of the things that's made this RV so great is they have continued to kind of look at it and say, okay, you know, we're successful with it, but how could it still improve and still be better? And that constant like push for evolution and innovation is what's kind of in play here. Like they've the way that they've done the table and chairs set up over here, very different from what they've done in the past, where the table itself can actually rotate. But what's happening here is you have two full-time chairs and that little floating storage Franken bench. So kind of a Franken booth, Franken dinette kind of thing. You do have an option for just conventional table and chairs, but the thing is you already have that here. The RV still includes a pair of fold-away guest chairs that you can bust out when you want to, and the table still has an extension leaf you can use if needed. So, you know, you can actually probably fit more people comfortably around this than what you've seen from like a lot of booths in the past, you know? And obviously that's not a booth. The way that I phrased that almost kind of implied that's what I was saying. It's not. There's no question about it. Entertainment center right down here, right in the mid-level of the RV where it's right at the eye line on Boardwalk and Park Place. We're looking at a theater seat today. You can get the hide-a-bed. Either way, you get those handy sealed edge thermofoil swivel stands that have the cupception cup holders, where it's a cup holder that slots into a cup holder, you know what I mean? But hey, it gets the job done. It's perfectly sized for a cold Coors Light or, you know, whatever your flavor happens to be. This is also a neat thing they do. If you're sensitive to flashing lights, I don't think this will trigger you, but you might want to look away. On each side of the slide out, they give us little switches to activate the light or deactivate the lights directly above you that you can reach right from your seating, and they give us some USB plugs. It's those little details that kind of determine how much you do or don't enjoy something, you know, kind of over the long haul, long-term period of ownership. Electric space heat and fireplace down there just below that improved JBL soundbar. They have bumped up the sound system as this has graduated from Eagle HT to just Eagle. Now back here, this is kind of interesting. It's not like a ladder to the upper bed, but they do have a couple big stairs, which I think little kids can generally hop themselves up here, even if you need to give them a hand. It's not like you got to heave them and throw them over your shoulder to get them up there. But they went with a north-south double over double bunk arrangement. But what's kind of interesting is each bed has its own little side pocket storage space over here, and it's easy to miss, but you've also got household and USB outlets for the bunks and TV hookups back here. So if you need like, let's say you have like an adult child or something like that, Or I've actually seen a lot of people take this floor plan and specifically remove just the upper bed, which doesn't pose any structural issues for the RV, and convert it into a 2-bedroom RV, like true literal mother-in-law suite. You could do something like that here. It could get the job done. It's unconventional, but it can work. And it's basically going to be one of the smallest fifth wheels at that stage that could theoretically be like a 2-bedroom kind of rig. Now, they also give us some decent storage back here. As long as we're talking about that, let's go ahead and just crack through and open up all the storage space on this one. Even the steps down at ground level has some extra dresser drawers built into it, which is kind of handy. You got your socks and underwear drawers right there. And then, of course, you have the Legend of Zelda Hideaway Pantrytainment Center, which is just huge amount of kitchen dry storage. I think that's when they did that last year, I think it was, is when this model kind of went way over the top for me. Now, the kitchen does have a 12-volt fridge. I was a little sad to see that they removed the struts for the overhead cabinet doors. You see how I had to open them manually, and they kind of auto-drop themselves. And I don't love that, but I hope you appreciate the fact that I went out of my way to demonstrate that for you so that you know exactly what you're getting for your money, and you're not buying something based on a previously forged expectation. But again, the multi-function nature of this table chair setup, I really like it. I think it can do a little bit of anything. And you know what? The fact is, like, being able to flip it sideways and push it straight against that window and put a couple chairs in front of it, almost like a little desk function, that's really cool. And maybe it's not the most useful thing in this floor plan, but the fact is you can use it like 6, 7, 8, 9 different ways. So there's always going to be something you can do with it. It's never like it'll never be useful to you whatsoever. And you may have noticed how they're using the same flooring in the slide as in the main floor. To do that, it does require a little bit higher grade of floor covering that not every manufacturer does. You see a little reflection of my balding hairline over there in the big old mirror. And there we see we have some excellent big cross breeze windows. But what you don't see is an air conditioner. And that means you also won't hear the air conditioner, not with near the severity that is. Jayco's one of the only manufacturers still doing a whisper ducted air system. It seems like a lot of other manufacturers, for a while, there's a couple years there where like lots of brands were doing it. And then all of a sudden, just everyone kind of quit doing it and everyone quit talking about it. And I don't really know why. It's a hugely useful feature, you know, not having to crank your TV up. And like when the TV volume is loud, when people are trying to talk over the air conditioner, when the whole volume of the whole RV gets loud, I don't know about you. I am very sonically triggered. Like if there's lots of noise and someone starts talking to me, like I almost get violent. Like it's great. Like it just, it sets me on edge instantly. Now, obviously I don't like go punching people, you know, but my point is, I like when I'm camping and getting some R&R time, getting a little bit of relaxation in there. That works for me. They haven't really changed the floor plan. Still the same upper deck that we saw before. Still plenty of room around that porcelain foot flush stool down there. Both hip, shoulder, elbow room, everything worked very, very nicely there. It is a radius shower, and that does kind of pose a challenge for some folks in terms of like elbow room and all that. One of the tricks I've really learned here in a shower like this, if you're going to, well, not if, but when you start, you know, washing your hair and whatnot, you almost want to face your belly toward that the hot cold water kind of knobs right there, because that will give you side to side the most elbow room. That helps. It's still not quite as much space as some of those rectangular showers, but actually there's some really small rectangular showers too that for some reason nobody seems to realize or talk about. Now over here, built into the slide, you have a whole bunch of linen space, and below the sink, you've got all kinds of extra shelf space right there. Right across from the toilet, that'd be a great spot for some extra rolls of butt napkins, if you ask me. But I tell you what I would do. I would try to find a way to basically cut the shelf down under that sink, either the left or right side, to give me space for a little wastebasket. And notice they still have that backlit morning mirror, and that is a medicine cabinet mirror. It does open for storage. It just has that backlighting, so at night when you're walking in here navigating, you don't have to get stabbed directly in the eyeballs. 60 by 80 true queen bed standard. They do no longer have a king option. I phrased that weirdly. They no longer have a king option. What they have, though, is a little bit of extra space on either side of the bed, about 6 inches worth. What you can do is you can slot in this, what's called an Olympic queen, a 60 by 80 no, 66 wide by 80 queen bed, and that can fit in here to give you a little bit of extra space if you are curious. Now, the one that we're looking at today is outfitted with one of their more advanced solar packages. So up here, the household outlets have these little white stickers on them. One of the cool things Jayco's doing is if your RV has an inverter on it, it flat tells you which outlets are powered by the inverter should you choose to activate it. That kind of sounds like a Mission Impossible thing, should you choose to accept the mission. It is also worth noting too, these are still 50 amp service, so if you want to add that second air conditioner, not a problem. And notice how that's centralized. This has a 30,000 BTU air system if you add the second factory air. And that might be really handy now that they have that front windshield, because front windshields look absolutely awesome. But they are effectively a giant thermal hole in the wall. Thankfully, this does have a blackout nightshade that you can pull down, and it is lit outside in this display. But look at how tinted that windshield is. It's not 100% foolproof privacy, but it's also not like, you know, you got to worry about the neighbors wearing their underwear staring at you from the front of their front living fifth wheel or something like that. It's still pretty private. And again, you do have a privacy shade there for you whenever you would like it. Down below the bed, you've got a lot of storage space. They actually do a very good job of that right there. Easy lift as well. Plus, over in the slide, you have, that's where your closet's going to be located, along with a little extra dresser space, but they still managed to include a cross breeze window for it over there, which is really handy, because over here, you have yourself a giant breeze window. And just so that you can see it, so you don't think anything is missed, you do have TV hookups right there straight across from the bed. One of the other things here is this does have the BM Pro system. So if you're laying in bed, you really don't want to get up, you could actually just use your phone to turn the lights off on the RV. Actually, you could almost pretty much just shut the lights off on the kids and say lights out time. Lights out time. That's what it's called when you get in the ring with Mike Tyson. Lights out time. Now, I just noticed something. I closed the slides up for road mode. I talked about that Olympic queen bed because that's what the folks at Jayco told me. I just noticed the slide comes in further than that side stand. That might pose problems for an Olympic queen bed. I'm going to have to get with them on that and get some kind of confidence and confirmation on the whole Olympic queen statement. For now, it may be best just to stick with the plan of going with a true queen, but at least it's not the short camp queen. And because the bed is not mounted in a slide, there's zero question about it. You can use the bed in transit. When beds are mounted in slides, to my knowledge, at the time of this filming, only Brinkley is testing to use the slide, the bed slide, when it is closed. That's one of the major differentiating factors between towable RVs and motorized RVs. But bedroom and bathroom access has never been a problem on this floor plan. What's been a problem for years on this floor plan is kitchen access in transit. However, that is no longer a problem, and this is one of the this is one of the benefits that you'll never find in like some kind of sales brochure. This is why I take the time to close the slides up, because with this new pivoting table, you now have plenty of room to easily walk around this thing and get back to the kitchen. You do pretty much still lose the bunks. Little kids might be able to slide in over there. But one of the things that you may be able to potentially leverage is the fact that this is a rack and pinion slide out. So if you need to open it just a little bit like that, just enough to get through there to pack the storage space, you could do that. What I don't recommend doing is opening the slide, letting the kids back there, and then closing the slide, because basically you've made it really hard to get out of the RV then. And in the event of an extreme emergency, you do not want your kids trapped behind a slide out. Yes, I know there's a fire escape window, but I also don't want my kids having to jump 10 feet out of the side of an RV to do it. So little pro tip and dad tip there for you from Uncle Josh. But as is still the case, I do generally recommend a 3/4 ton pickup for a fifth wheel of this size with this kind of hitch weight and GVW and things like that. It just feels like it's beyond where half ton should generally tread, you know. Now, I actually feel I'm going to work my way around this one the opposite direction of what I normally do. I'm just feeling froggy this morning, so I'm going to hop on over here. First of all, what do you think about the facelifted exterior? Now, the color palette hasn't really changed, but somehow it feels newer, fresher, sharper to me. Just all the kind of linear line action they have going on. And if your neighbor is Jeffrey the giraffe, he may be able to, crane his neck up and look through that windshield, especially if it's backlit like you see right now. and peek up there. But keep in mind, most of the time no one's going to be able to see up there, and you do still have that blackout night shade you can pull down. And it's we're not at a great angle. Let me see if I can get you a better view of it. Like the orange lightsaber glow beams that you have up here looking real good on this one. Up front, your front area, it is sized for a generator. I've seen some people put generators in here. They don't offer one from the factory. And those shelves over on the right, what that's kind of intended for is if you want to load this thing up with just a bunch of batteries, or maybe you only have 1 or 2 batteries, like say on the bottom shelf. You could use the top shelf for things like wheel chocks or some handy random little toolbox kind of stuff like that, you know, some little details there. We're on push button simple automatic leveling, so like scrubbing bubbles, it does the work so you don't have to, which is kind of handy. And it is all prepped and ready for a full observation camera suite, both side and rear view cameras. Being a smaller size fifth wheel with a truncated upper deck, you don't really have the world's biggest pass-through, but we're going to see again in the back of this one, there's a nice chunk of extra storage back there. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I'm kind of operating a little bit from memory here, and eyeballing it, it does look like my memory was correct. This is a single sewer outlet, so you only have one set of sewer outlets up there just in front of the slide out. So you never have to really go like crawling under the slide to get to anything, which is welcome. And this is what I was talking about right here. They, don't have the world's biggest front pass-through, but since they had all that extra space above the bunks, or below the bunks rather, they were able to open this up. And you see that you can get to it from the back or the side. And we're going to take another peek at the back because this year it looks like they expanded that little cutaway up there a little bit further and really kind of maximize the storage there. Now, not all of the Jaycos have the J-Smart lighting package that they had in the previous couple seasons. And the way that you can tell that is if you get at the back of the RV, if you look at the top, you see how there's 2 red marker lights on the left and right sides? That's because one of those is dedicated to the J-Smart system. So if you flip on your turn signal on the left side, say, not just the tail light will blink, but those extra upper lights and all of the lights along the side of the RV, those will also blink along with your turn signal. So that's kind of teaching you how to fish. Like, let me back up a little bit. We're right next to a White Hawk over here. You see how it has only a single marker light in that upper corner? That means that does not have J-Smart lighting. So I'll teach you how to fish, and if you appreciate things like that to help you shop not just Eagles, but all Jaycos, then, hit that subscribe button, like the video, all those smash the button things that YouTubers have to say. Anyway, back here, we still have our 3,000-pound towing package. The difference between a towing hitch and an accessory hitch is only the addition of the safety chain hooks and the 4-way wiring harness. So if you see an accessory hitch rated for a 300-pound vertical limit, in theory, it has a 3,000-pound horizontal weight rating, but the bean count and muckety muck lawyers didn't actually rate it for towing or call it a towing hitch. So if you use it for that purpose, caveat emptor, ladies and gentlemen, buyer beware. If it breaks, you bought the repair. Now this is really interesting right here. The kind of a hybridization of a camp kitchen and an entertainment center, and they've tweaked this around and changed it a little bit this year, and now it has even more counter space than it did before, because the little griddle with the J port has kind of evolved a little bit, and what it has over here is this little drop-in kind of hand wash basin with like countertop sink cover. Now you see it does have a sink drain. If you hooked a hose up to it, you had a bucket or something below it, it could do that, but it does not plumb into any sort of holding tank. I want to kind of make that clear, which isn't my favorite. I prefer it when a sink actually does drain directly into a holding tank, but this is what it is. I'll tell you what it is and what it isn't so that you can make your most educated decisions, It's also easy to miss, but you do have hot-cold water hookup right there, and it does include the little coily sprayer hose that you might use for that thing. Now, over here under the power awning, we have obviously the rear auto leveling jack, and of course our Goodyear Endurance radials making another return, as well as the MORryde CRE 3000 suspension. This is one of those things that a lot of manufacturers just don't do. A lot of fifth wheel brands just do not offer any sort of enhanced suspension package. And the thing is, not only does that provide you a smoother ride and experience while going down the road, it also takes a lot of stress off your RV, because all the road stress and bounces and jounces more of that gets absorbed before like the structure and the walls and the screws and nuts and bolts and welds and fasteners also have to get tweaked around. So better suspension will generally help keep your RV out of the shop, which is kind of cool. So that's this one in a very long-winded nutshell. Let me know what you think about it. What do you think about the updates, and how could they improve the RV further? Now, to kind of help you shop here, I'm going to leave you some links in the video description where you can check for pricing and availability at your discretion and at your leisure. And until then, looking forward to seeing you next time. Take care, stay safe, have fun, and happy camping, everyone.